Speech 1311, Mr. Patterson, Informative Speech by Brian Matthew Cook. My audience will become more educated on space exploration history, facts, and future. With the help of Mars One, people will permanently inhabit Mars by the year of 2023. It will have been 56 years on October 4th of this year, to be exact, that humanity launched the first man-made object into space. Now, with all of us living in the information age and having an unlimited and marveling access to history, facts, and all of information, gives one the ability to utilize and self-research material from credible sources, enabling me to present this to you. Today, we will review three main points. First, the space race between America and Russia. Second, the International Space Station, or ISS. And last will be Mars One's one-way trip sending inhabitants to Mars. Now that you know what we will be reviewing today, let's take a look at the facts. The space race between the Soviet Union and the United States drove the early era of space exploration. The space race actually involved pioneering efforts to launch suborbital and orbital human space flights and artificial satellites around Earth and piloted voyages to the moon. The first man-made object was launched into the orbit of Earth by the USSR in 1957. The craft was named Sputnik 1. This effectively began the space race. The National Aeronautics and Space Act passed in the United States on July 29th of 1958. Between 1957 and 1975, Cold War rivalries between the USSR and the USA focused on acquiring firsts in space exploration to grant symbolic, technological, and ideological superiority to the victor. Now that we have touched base on some of the beginnings of space exploration, let's take a look at some of the more current events. The International Space Station, or ISS, was the largest man-made object ever assembled in space. The first modular component of the International Space Station, or ISS, was launched into space in 1998. The ISS, or International Space Station, is actually the 9th space station to be inhabited by crews from Earth. The ISS is a joint maintained project between 5 participating space agencies: NASA, Roscosmos, JAXA, ESA, and the CSA. The ISS is arguably the most expensive single object ever constructed. The International Space Station is a microgravity and space environment research laboratory that enables crews to conduct experiments in biology, human biology, physics, astronomy, meteorology, and other differing fields. The ISS tests spacecraft systems required for missions to the Moon and for Mars, and is also funded until 2020 and may be operational until 2028. We have looked at several past and current milestone events in the frontier of space exploration leading up to our current time. Mars One, a non-profit organization, has set an ambitious goal of sending astronauts on a one-way trip to Mars to establish a colony. Dutch entrepreneur Bas Lansdorp announced official plans for the Mars One mission in May of 2012. In 2022, 4 selected astronaut applicants will be launched in a Mars-bound spaceflight to become the first residents on Mars, establishing permanence. By 2025, a new 4-person Mars One crew will be sent for residency. The organization's goal is to send a 4-person space flights to the Red Planet every 2 years after successful landing of the initial crew. With the inability to point your space flight directly at Mars, due to the Earth and Mars orbiting the Sun, gives rise to the issue of a longer trip. Mars' closest point in orbit to Earth is approximately 55 million kilometers. And even though these spacecrafts travel in excess of 20,000 kilometers per hour, it still takes over 250 days to arrive at Mars. Light, on the other hand, could travel from Earth to Mars in under 296 seconds. Let me summarize this material for you and place it into an aspect that can properly represent the size of the feat of which we have accomplished. It is mind-boggling to think that in only 56 years, we have come from simply sending objects into low orbit to the consideration of sending manned missions to Mars. The universe is so vast that we consider 55 million kilometers a close distance to travel. If you traveled at an average of 80 kilometers per hour in your car to get to Mars, it would take you approximately 28,645 days to arrive, while again, light would only take 296 seconds. We, humanity, have grown and grown together in the approach to conquer the final frontier, and in only 56 years we have made great strides. But will we ever be able to utilize the vast expanse of our universe? Now that we have some facts regarding the distances we have to travel to reach even the closest bodies in our solar system alone, and the possible times it takes to get there, let me leave you on a note which questions our integrity as a nation of being able to conquer these tasks. Mars, at its closest, being approximately 55 million kilometers from Earth, takes 250 plus days to reach while traveling over 20,000 kilometers per hour in a spacecraft. It would take you 28,645 days traveling in your car to arrive, yet light again can make it in only 296 seconds. If 1 mile traveled were equivalent to $1 American of the United States debt, it would take light, even though traveling at 186,300 miles per second, 670,680,000,000 miles per hour, or 5,878,625,371,567.2 miles in a year, it would still take light over 3 years to travel through America's debt, while only taking 296 seconds to get to Mars.